Welcome into the New Orleans Saints Postgame Show presented by Verizon. I'm Caroline Gonzalez, joined by Mike Haas as your New Orleans Saints win on the road against the Tennessee Titans 38-28. Mike, I don't think it was exactly the start that the Saints were hoping to get off to, but they finished it out and did a good job.
They sure did. It was the classic Monday Night Football, short week. They just looked a little out of sync offensively, miscommunication. Got down 14 points, but then scored 24 unanswered to end up winning 38-28. It was a lot closer. It was 31-28.
Within 5 minutes.
With one turnover in the football game, just one, and it was huge as the Titans were driving. Big hit. C.J. Gardner-Johnson picks up the football, and really that was what closes it out. But this game is going to be remembered about Michael Thomas. This will be the Michael Thomas game, and we'll talk a lot about it. But for the second time in 2 weeks, a Saints player has set not one, but two
records.
NFL records. So huge win for this football team to go on the road. It doesn't like, even for both teams, it doesn't matter. It doesn't change a bunch of things in the big scenario, but it's a huge win. They have swept the AFC South, beat all those teams. They have the Carolina Panthers next. We now become big Minnesota Vikings fans and Seattle Seahawks fans because they are still in the hunt. 4 teams still in the hunt for the #1 seed, and that's what you want.
I do want to talk about the seeding picture a little bit later in the show, Mike. We'll be hearing from Sean Payton and Drew Brees here in a little bit. We'll get you over to them as soon as we can. But let's go ahead and talk about the record-breaking fashion of Michael Thomas. As you said, 2 records broken today. Most receiving yards through a player's first 4 seasons. He surpasses Randy Moss. And then the record that everyone really had their eye on with the single-season record of more than 144 catches.
Right. Marvin Harrison, we talked about it. It would have been huge last week with the Colts, but quite frankly, had that game been closer, he would have gotten very close to it.
Right.
So he gets the tie from a pass from Taysom Hill, kind of classic. So Taysom throws the tying, and then it's Drew Brees to Michael Thomas. And it's almost like Drew last week, where Thomas, he had the record, but we thought it was a touchdown, so it gets reviewed. They reversed the touchdown, but he still had the record, and then he throws the touchdown to Michael Thomas. Thomas, what a huge day. He was targeted 17 times, 12 catches, 136 yards. He now has 145, which has, of course, surpassed Marvin Harrison, longtime great player for the Colts, and there's another game to play. And it doesn't look like there's any scenario where this game is not hugely important. As we've seen in recent years in Carolina, this game is going to be big.
And you knew it wasn't going to be cakewalk for these last 2 games of the season against the Titans and against the Panthers, both games on the road. Of course, you've locked up your division, but there's still a lot of football to be played. We talked about Michael Thomas, but we of course need to talk about the things that the Saints needed to correct in the beginning of the game. That first quarter was not what they wanted it to be. A lot of penalties for the Saints.
They had 9 penalties in the first half, really 10. One of them was called back. And so that was, they were just sloppy. They were sloppy, couldn't get, Drew, you don't see Drew and Michael Thomas not on the same page for a miscommunication thing. And I was like, wow, that was a little strange. And they fell behind, but then the defense stiffened up. The defense had 5 sacks, and again, had 7 sacks. 2 were called back from a penalty. And as we've said before, and we're going to get to Sean Payton as soon as he comes to the podium. As we've said before, it's not the penalty. It's what the penalty takes back.
It's
the
timely.
sack. It's the sack that would have been at the 1. Instead, it's a first down. But then that defense stiffened and forced the Titans to punt 5 consecutive times. That's when the Saints offense got going and put 24 points on the board. Deontay Harris, wow, what a huge game. 4 punt returns for 21 yards, but his kickoff returns, 4 for 150 yards, along of 47, to the point where they stopped kicking it to him. So the Saints had good field position a lot. Jared Cook, holy cow, what a game from him. And really about the last 6 games, he's got 8 touchdowns now. 6 of them came in the last 6 games. And so he has really been, in my estimation, and I asked him this after the Colts game, that you've become the seam route guy that this team lacked so desperately since Jimmy Graham is gone. He's a huge target, and he makes the catch in the end zone, takes big hits. Great job for Jared Cook.
Man, what a great story for Deontay Harris. Coming out of Assumption College, a small Division III school. He's a rookie this year, then being selected to the Pro Bowl. What a great story for that guy. But you talk about all of the good things that the Saints offense did, but the defense did struggle at the beginning. But they came into this game with a lot of injuries. You had no Derrick Henry for the Titans today.
Second leading rusher in the NFL. They go without.
Right, but the Saints came in with a lot of injuries. You're missing your 2 guys up front in Sheldon Rankins and Marcus Davenport. At that linebacker position, you're missing your starter in Kiko Alonso. And then the secondary struggles early with injuries as Eli Apple and Marcus Williams go out.
You were without Von Bell, so that defense was struggling. But they had 5 sacks early. Shai Tuttle came in strong. A.J. Klein had 2 sacks. Cam Jordan had a sack, which we'll get to his record. It's a little deep into the library, but he set a record again today. But it was just able, as you're watching the plays early on, the Titans scored on plays of 41, 49, and 36. So they were big plays.
Yeah.
Now, I will say that for the Saints today, they had their longest touchdown run of the season. In fact, their longest run of the season, that was Alvin Kamara's 40-yarder, and their longest touchdown pass of the season, 61 yards to Jared Cook. So there are a lot of things happening, big plays. No team got into the red zone until late in the third quarter.
Yeah, good to see Alvin Kamara kind of get back in the swing of things. You know, I tweeted out, what's the basketball version of he just needed to see the ball go in. He finally had a touchdown for the first time since September 22nd. He ran it in, and then you kind of just saw that confidence, that swagger come back for Alvin as he ran in for another touchdown and then had a few big plays. He kind of just got his swagger back a little bit.
Yeah, I felt so too. Man, you think he's done well, but he just hasn't gotten in the end zone. When you think, man, September 22nd, week 3, and he puts 2 on the board today. Jared Cook puts 2 on the board today, and so he got the ball. It seems to me, in my humble opinion, that's all this is, that we didn't deal so much with Latavius Murray. I felt like it was time. Sean said he's got to get into his rhythm. And we're going to give him the ball to get him to do that, and he did, catching it and running it. And boy, he and that defense and that huge turnover. That really the difference in this football game.
Yeah, let's talk about that turnover. I mean, you had a huge hit from Janoris Jenkins, who was just picked up by the Saints this past week. So he had, 4 or 5 days with this team. He has a big tackle. The ball comes out of the receiver's hands. C.J. Gardner-Johnson picks it up. Smart play by him, smart heads-up play to run it back as much as he can. No call on the play. And then, obviously, the Saints pick it up at their 25.
Right, that was huge. I mean, had that been the Rams game. It's the referee made the wise decision. There's no benefit in blowing the whistle. Made the wise decision to say, let's wait and see. They reviewed it, made the football move, and really took that third step. What was crucial was as he was turning was the ball going out, and it was.
Yeah.
And so to me, that was an excellent call. It changed, certainly you don't know that the Titans would have scored, but it was 31-28. They had just come back and scored again. So it was a very, very close game. But when you fall, if you saw this on Twitter, if you're going to fall behind 14-0, not bad to do so in the first quarter.
We're going to go now to head coach Sean Payton.
Look, it was good to get a win. Be it we started off slow. We struggled in a lot of areas to start the game, and it was frustrating. I thought defensively after those 2 touchdown drives, I thought we really did a few things to get that momentum shifted, and then special teams gave us some great returns today, and then offensively we finally got going and thought we played better in the second quarter and then better in the second half. So it was a good win to get on the road. It's a good football team we played. Any questions?
How much did you feel like a day like that for Kamara could do that? I know you said you felt like his best football team.
Yeah, look, those things come and you just, he's playing well. He's doing an outstanding job. Man, it was a great check by Drew. The one play, his first touchdown was an audible. And, I think more than anything else, it's just continuing to, find the spots that we feel like he does, things that he does well, and there's a lot of them, in the run game and the passing game, and he played well.
He hit that big block on Cook's touchdown.
Yeah, he did a number of plays. So he's very unselfish, and it's good to see him have some success. And I thought some of his plays really helped us. We had him open in a few other plays in the passing game, but That all being said, though, I'm glad he's on our team.
Sean, what did the injuries to the secondary affect your own?
Well, it made us look. You lose a corner, you move some guys around, move guys up. Obviously, put PJ outside, and then the safety, moved. We ended up moving moving PJ back, Patrick Robinson. So look, fortunately, we're deep there. We knew going in with 3 safeties active that we might have to have a backup plan, and sure enough, we needed to. Well, we'll see the tape. I thought overall pretty good.
Sean, what did it mean to see Mike get that record?
Say it again.
What did it mean for you to see?
I wasn't really aware of it until about 2 seconds ago. I don't, the numbers, and we're talking about what season catches. Look, I'm excited for him, and I'm sure he'd say the same thing. I think more importantly it was about getting a win. So we got a lot of double on third down. They did a pretty good job of trying to take him away. We were able to find some of his touches in the slot, and but listen, that's a great accomplishment. Marvin Harrison was a fantastic player.
Sean, in the last couple of years, it seems like that play that CJ made where he forced the fumble over the deep middle, that's been kind of taken out of the game a little bit. Is that nice to just see that type of play?
It was good. Listen, it was a good catch. It was a good tackle, and we gravitated to where we're removing the head from the hit. But that was a good play by him.
For a rookie, just the last couple.
He's been smart. He's played well. Look, I like what we have in the player. I like the way he competes. He's around the ball, and man, he loves playing football. So he's doing well.
Surprised to see him still kicking to Deontay in the third, fourth quarter, the game he was having.
Well, they finally, in the kickoff, hit one, and D. Wash ended up with it. Look, those returns were something, and the field position that put us in was really good, and it had a lot to do with us winning the game.
Jared Cook, is this kind of what you envisioned? I mean, the stretch that he's on, like multiple touchdown catches.
Yeah, look, he's you guys saw him in training camp. He's got such good run skills after the catch. He's a big target. The play that he and Drew made today for the first touchdown was significant. It was good to see him. Again, if we're getting doubled outside over to the X, there's times where he's just going to have the single.
Was there a decent balance between some sacks and coverage sacks that weren't necessarily on the offensive line?
I want to see the tape before. I thought, look, they've got a good rush plan, and we gave up a couple twists, and got edged on a few. So we'll see.
Discouraging to see some of the offensive penalties, especially come back.
Yeah, look, discouraging, and yet there are a handful of them that I was able to get a chance to see, and there are a few of them that, they are what they are. So, anything else?
Sean, getting Kamara going, Cook going, Thomas, does this show really the potential of this offense moving forward?
Yeah, each week the job is to understand the game and then understand what we have to do to win that game, and they do a good job of mixing up some zone and man looks a little bit different than what we've seen throughout the year. And so on a short week, that was a concern of mine in preparation. Are we going to be able to recognize some of these things? We got a couple corner blitzes today. We got I knew we were going to get some zone pressures on third down. And look, fortunately, we were able to solve some of those puzzles in the second half.
Sean, there was a sequence there in the third, fourth quarter where Vrabel challenged the play with Mike Thomas and gave you all a little extra time. You ended up dialing up a third 12 pass to Mike Thomas. Did that give you all a little extra time to gather that?
Well, look, we went through a few different things there. I'm trying to think of the call he challenged. Was it?
I think it was like a reception or interception, incompletion.
Oh, whether it was an interception or incompletion. Yeah. So, look, you're waiting. We talked about a few different things. We got a corner blitz coming off that clock stoppage, and we were working an individual with Mike. And sure enough, here came the corner, and Drew there's a safety coming over the top, and those guys were able to make a play that converted the third down. But, yeah, when you have a little bit more time like that, you go through and you kind of rehash maybe some thoughts as to what we want to do on that call. So it gave us a little bit more time than normal.
You know, allow yourself any time to watch Seahawks play this afternoon, Packers play tomorrow?
Well, we're flying after this, and then tomorrow we're in on Carolina. I'm sure it's hard for us to watch games, though. Honestly, the players will have a chance too, but we'll see. We'll see when we get home.
Do you ever look ahead to the game ahead and anticipate it as a game that could be a potential letdown game? Because when you look at this, it all the makings of a tough game. Just being a short weekend on the road.
Yeah, but here's the thing: we can't. The way we started today, we're not going to have a letdown game next week because I felt like we started today sloppy and slow. So teams are too good in this league, and Carolina is one of those teams that's a good football team. They beat this team that we just beat today. So next week's not that type of game. It's an important game for us. Oh, say it again?
I meant this week from last week.
Yeah, look, that was the concern coming into this game was they do enough things that are different. They're out of the conference, and then you're coming off a Monday night game, and are you going to be able to simulate them all while getting your guys rested? And we felt like we were going to need their legs, and we were going to have to back off practice and spend more time with some walkthroughs, so that can we prepare to play this team the way we want to, and still come in here with enough energy and I felt like we didn't to start, but we found it shortly into the game, and that was encouraging.
Maybe I think it just speaks to the character of all this team that they've just ridden out all the highs and lows and probably possibly throw at.
Yeah, look, they have, and yet, man, we've still got to clean up a few things. And I told them just 2 minutes ago, hey, you have to believe that from week to week you can improve, and this is a team that still can improve. And I think that's going to be important when we get into the tournament with better teams, single elimination, and we're going to have to be better in some areas, a lot of areas. All right, thank you.
I'll bring Mike in here in the room.
All right, that was head coach Sean Payton. We'll be going to Drew Brees shortly when he's at the podium. Mike, I got into broadcasting because I was told that there was no math involved, but I just had to do some math because, Sean Payton talked about how good Jared Cook has been for this team, and of course we saw the big reception for him early in the game, 61 yards, and Coach Payton said he's got good run after catch skills, and so I was curious as to the beginning of the season, and Jared Cook didn't have over 50 yards receiving for the first 6 weeks of the season, and ever since then he's averaged 70 yards per game. I think that's absolutely astounding.
Right, he was hurt some, and I think there's a curve, and I've had receivers tell me that Drew needs to know he can count on you to run the correct route.
Yeah.
He has to. It's a relationship. He has to believe and you're going to be there.
Yeah.
That's why he and Mike Thomas. That's why he and Jimmy Graham, Marcus Colson. They were all so good because he believed they would be there. And I think it just took a little time because he was hurt. He wasn't around much. But you're right. He has been unbelievable. All of his yards and all of his touchdowns have really come in the last few weeks.
And I think that Jared Cook touchdown was a big turning point for the Saints today.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that 61-yarder, again, longest touchdown reception pass of the season. Then he got a 16-yarder later to put him back by 10, 31-21. But do we want to go to John?
Yeah. For some more insight on today's game, we go to our own senior reporter, John DeShazier.
Well, Caroline, Mike, you heard from Coach. You hear next door, that's Club Saints over there. DeMario Davis said it's VIP, so none of us can get in there yet. But, this team wins the game. That's 12 victories this season. The first time in franchise history they have had back-to-back 12-win seasons. So that tells you how significant this team has been. And Mike and Caroline, if you reflect back to the beginning of this season, everyone wondered whether this team was going to have a hangover from the way it finished last year. Well, obviously, I think they've answered that several times over this year. Started out this game sluggish, down 14-0. They scored 24 straight, and then they pretty much par out, match touchdown for touchdown against the Titans, and they get another win, and they're still in the hunt for the the number 1 and number 2 seed, and that's the main thing right now. They've already secured the NFC South Division. We know that, but they want that number 1 or 2 seed. You want that bye week. You want that home game. You want to make the path to the Super Bowl as easy as you possibly can make it, and certainly you always feel like that path is easier if it comes through your house. So that's the goal right now. They win a tough game against a Tennessee team that was very, very game, even without Derrick Henry out there today. They gave up a couple of big chunk plays early in the game to give up those first 2 touchdowns, but they really, really settled in. I think that Jared Cook touchdown pass, that 61-yarder where Alvin Kamara escorts him down the sideline, had to be the turning point in the game because it really seemed as if it gave this team an injection of energy, and they really picked up from that. And the defense got some stops, and then all of a sudden they got onto one of those rolls that we've seen this team have for the last several weeks. This is now the 5th game in the last 6 that this team has scored at least 30 points. So they're on a roll offensively. They're really settling into it. Drew Brees, another fantastic game. I can't remember the numbers, but I know he didn't throw an interception. He's protecting the football. I think he had 3 touchdowns. So that'd make it 12 touchdowns and no interceptions in the last 3 games. So they're having some phenomenal things going for this team. And again, Alvin Kamara snaps back into being what we expect out of Alvin Kamara. And I'm sure you guys have discussed Michael Thomas setting the NFL single-season receptions record. So nothing to be said there, but you have to also give some kudos to the offensive line. They held up, had some injuries, have some injuries, and were able to hold up, even though Brees got sacked a few times. But, you know, he always tells you sometimes it's better to eat it and take the sack than it is to just throw it up for grabs and get in trouble that way. And also we saw in the secondary where they really experienced some injuries, and they're going to have some things to deal with over this coming week as opposed to who's going to be healthy enough to go in Carolina. Marcus Williams left this game. Eli Apple left this game. You end up with P.J. Williams playing safety, moving from slot cornerback. You end up with Patrick Robinson on the field. You end up with Jack Rabbit, Janoris Jenkins on the field, probably more than they expected to have him out there in his first Saints game. So fortunately, this team did sign DJ Swearinger also. He might have to play next week. You just don't know exactly how it's going to shake out because they had so many injuries in this game, and yet they were able to overcome those and fight through those and win this game. The defensive line and the defense as a whole, you know, they had some shaky moments in there. You mentioned the early 2 touchdowns, and then they gave up a couple of late touchdowns, but they did produce some sacks in there, produce some pressure in there. So hopefully they'll be able to, you know, replicate that against Carolina because Carolina's going to be coming in, I believe, with a rookie quarterback, Jeff Driscoll, out there. They've gone away from Kyle Allen, so, you know, that's something that the Saints should be in their favor, but you never know how these things are going to shake out until you play the game. But, you know, they came in here, Nissan Stadium, and really pull out a nice victory because of the way they started. You just wouldn't have seen this coming, down 14-0 at the end of the first quarter, and then to finish out, outscoring this team 38-14 over the last 3 quarters. They really found the accelerator. Pressed it, punched it, stayed on it. We're going to hear from Michael Thomas, the record breaker, a little bit. We're going to hear from Drew Brees, who didn't set a second NFL record. He didn't get the consecutive completions record, but he still had a phenomenal game. And offensively, this team has really pulled it together these last 6 games now, Mike, because the previous 5 games, they'd averaged 34.8 points a game. So they're right on that, right on schedule, 38 here in this game, Caroline. So a lot of good things to be said, a lot of things to be cleaned up, and from a coaching perspective, that's probably the perfect storm. You do a lot of things to win, and you've got a lot of things to teach over the coming week, some things that you probably don't want to have to reteach, especially the penalties. We don't want to see this team fall back into that trap, and they had a lot of pre-snap penalties in this game, so there's some areas that need to be cleaned up, obviously, but you do it in victory, and that's what I always say, you know, hey, if you can do it after a win, that's a whole lot better than doing it after a loss. So Mike, Caroline, back to you guys. Hopefully you enjoyed what you saw here today, but the Saints move on to Carolina next week and attempt still to get into that number 1 or number 2 seed in the NFC.
Thanks, JD. A lot of good insight and analysis from our own senior reporter, John DeShazier. And as he mentioned, we will be hearing from Michael Thomas shortly at the podium along with Drew Brees. So we will be sure to get you over to them as soon as they are at the podium. Mike, we heard a little bit about JD talking about the secondary today, and we discussed it a little bit. Moving forward, there have to be a lot of moves because, well, we don't know the significance of the injury.
We don't know about Marcus or Eli, but yeah, Eli was carted off, and you know, you just don't know. I mean, it's week 16. It's these,
Yeah.
they're all banged up, and it's about guys having to step up, and Patrick Robinson and P.J. Williams and Janoris Jenkins, maybe even in a different situation and get even more help to come in to help this team, because it is a big game and there's more, it will go back to being crucial once again to getting that 1 or 2 seed, because you get that January 3rd and 4th off to get your kind of bodies back. One of the things that JD talked about, he wasn't sure about Drew's numbers. Drew, it's like he's so good. You talk about taking a guy for granted. Like, I don't think, did he play?
Right.
He was 27 of 38, 279 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks. Had a few sacks. But just,
that's with a banged up offensive line,
right.
too, so you can't really do a whole lot on that.
And there's
front.
when you look at the numbers, Taysom Hill was 2 rushing, 2 carries for 11 yards, passing 1 of 2, receiving 2 catches for 21 yards. So it wasn't much of a factor. But when the Saints were up just 7 points, it was Taysom Hill on a 3rd and 1 who ran it, got that first down.
Yeah.
Next play, Drew, 23 yards to Taysom Hill. So when you look just at the stats, and then he was 1 of 2 passing, and one of those drops, of course, was the 4th down punt, the fake punt.
Yeah.
His name, I'm drawing a blank. Went to high school with Marshawn Lattimore. Justin Hardy. Justin Hardy, who, if I'm not mistaken, played wide receiver in high school with Marshawn. So wide open. I know that's one of the toughest kids on special teams I've ever seen, but that one will be tough to swallow. But this football team did what it had to do today. Didn't have its A game early on, got it going. They've now had 12 win seasons for the first time ever in franchise history, 12-3. Still plenty of football to go. Alvin Kamara had 30 yards plus receiving yards. So he's only the 3rd player in the NFL with 500 receiving yards and 500 rushing yards in each of his first 3 seasons. And one of the other guys was Herschel Walker. So pretty impressive. Pretty impressive. And I did mention Cam Jordan. We got more records. We're not done yet. Cam Jordan had a sack, so he now has 14 and a half. It puts him into 5th all-time on this team as far as sacks are concerned. He has 14 and a half in a season, so 5th all-time for this football team. And again, still plenty of football to go. And Will Lutz had his 32nd field goal on the season. That is a new Saints record. Of course, he broke his own record. Mm-hmm. He had 31. So did John Carney, and so did Morton Anderson. So he now has 32. So just, when you don't bring your A game early and you get down 14-0 and you battle your way back with defense and as you talked about, that Jared Cook touchdown, 2:23 to play in the second quarter to make it, instead of a 14-3 game, a 14-10 game. The Saints won the toss, deferred to the second half. You knew that was coming, and it got the ball back in the first, second half. I mean, that play really changed the landscape of the football game.
Well, Mike, any other touchdowns you want to cover? We have plenty of time.
I'm trying to think. It was stunning. I mean, to me, as we're sitting here in Week 16, and to think that the Saints had their longest rushing play of the season and their longest
when you said that, I was kind of taken aback
of the season. I was going through. Everybody goes, "Is that possible?" But they had not had a 40-yard run this season. They had not had a 61-yard touchdown.
And it was funny. Brendan, our producer, was saying, "Why doesn't every team have a Taysom Hill?" And it's like, well, he has been put in the perfect position because he can play the quarterback position. And of course, every fantasy owner of Taysom Hill has a gripe because he's not available at the flex position, but he can do it all. He can catch, he can throw, he can truck people, he does it all. So he has really been put in the perfect position on the Saints team.
Right, and Sean knows that, and it's certainly just having him out there. And I love it when he is able to show his passing ability so that when he's lined up back there, the other team doesn't get this feeling of it's a run.
Right.
It's a run. It's a run, and he certainly has shown that he can, 1, throw it, and 2, today, catch it.
Right to their helmet and to the numbers today. You saw it, just a little bit better hands there. Mike, we talked a little bit earlier in the show on seeding moving forward. I know you were working on it during the game. Right now, what is, there's a lot of ifs, ands, or buts, but what does that seeding picture look like right now for the Saints?
Let me do this. I'm not going to get into what it would take for this team to be the second seed, because it is. You'd have to. There's grandmothers involved, reindeer.
Cousins.
But for the first seed, it's now somewhat simple. So tomorrow night, Minnesota plays Green Bay. Minnesota hosts Green Bay. They're still trying to decide the NFC North. The Saints would like Minnesota to beat Green Bay. And then Seattle in Week 17 plays the 49ers. They would like Seattle to beat the 49ers. And if the Saints beat Carolina, it's pretty simple. The Saints are the number 1 seed. Anything through the playoffs, just like last year, would have to come through New Orleans. They would get a bye January 3rd and 4th. The question would be, when would they play the following weekend, the divisional weekend? Because you would think the 11th, Saturday the 11th, that night game, because we have a little football game in the Superdome on Monday the 13th.
Yep,
that could possibly be LSU. So can you imagine a Saints divisional playoff game on a Saturday night and LSU for the national championship on a Monday?
I don't think you'd find any hotels in the city, Mike.
Wow, I don't think you could. That's and so there's so much. I think this morning with 29 games or something left in the season, there were still billions of possibilities for the playoffs. And you think, well, that's crazy, that's impossible. But think about it, because a lot of it is driven by the Eagles and Cowboys, because we don't even know who's going to win that division yet. The worst the Saints could ever be was the 3rd seed.
Right.
The 4th seed is going to be the winner of that NFC East. Brendan, what's the score?
10-0.
10-0. Eagles on top of the Cowboys right now. Now, the Eagles do not automatically win the NFC East today. They control their own destiny. Should the Cowboys come back to win, they would. They would win the East and be the 4th seed. So it's about, where you're going to finish. And this is exactly the way the NFL wanted it.
Yeah.
Which is the only strange part to me is that 2 of the Saints' final 3 games were in the AFC. It just felt a little weird where you're not really playing finish up in Carolina like they always do, but not really playing against your division late in the year, not even playing in your conference late in the year. But just 2 huge wins over the Colts, record-setting, and then the Titans today. This game was scary. Ryan Tannehill had been playing phenomenal football, and really played pretty well today.
And they carried over that momentum into the first quarter, especially.
And then you look down, and it was you and I was like 3rd quarter, and I go, he's 7 of 12. Like, what happened?
Yep.
And he finished 17 of 27, 3 touchdowns, no picks, quarterback rating of 133. So, and very movable in the pocket. So, he took over Week 6, and they were 6-2 with him as a starter. And so this is their situation did not really change much today. They're like, the Texans have won the AFC South, did that with their victory over Tampa.
That was an ugly game.
Pittsburgh goes into New York. The Jets beat Pittsburgh. So the Titans' loss today didn't mean a whole heck of a lot because they play Pittsburgh next week. So, man, Week 17 in the NFL, going to be interesting. But tomorrow night, it begins with Minnesota.
And as far as seeding goes for the Saints, ideally, you always want a bye week going into it, but just to get some guys back. You think of Andrus Peat with the broken arm. I don't know if he could have played this week, but, you think maybe they set him out an additional week just to get some extra healing on that arm, and you just have those guys on the front line banged up on both sides of the ball, and you hope to get some guys back as we approach.
Warford was inactive today.
Warford, and then on the other side of the ball, you have Sheldon Rankins, Marcus Davenport, then Kiko Alonso. So the injury list is slowly starting to build up. So you hope that the Saints will get a bye week to ascend, as Drew Brees says, ascend towards the end of the season, start playing their best football, and get some players back. Hopefully, we'll be hearing from Michael Thomas and Drew Brees here shortly at the podium. But Mike, a big win, as we've mentioned, over the Titans today, 38-28. But a big issue that the Saints have to face as they watch the film is these penalties. Those penalties beginning of the game really, really hurt the Saints team, and it's kind of been a theme. And we saw last week the defense improve with those penalties and offense improve with those penalties, especially against the Colts. But it can't just be a one-week thing. They have to continue it as the season goes on.
And the bad tackling early on, very sloppy.
I have a feeling. Oh, we're hearing from Alvin Kamara here at the podium.
All right.
Felt good.
But was there something that sparked for you or triggered for you, either with the block for Jared or with the touchdown run? It seemed like you were just a lot more energized and successful from that point on in this.
We got, I think, the best O-line in football. So, great looks, great blocks outside. It was a perfect storm, I guess.
How do you feel like that touchdown to Jared? Do you feel like that one kind of jump-started the whole day for you
It was a big touchdown. I think we needed a spark, and he provided that. It was a big play. I think we kind of got juiced up after that.
You mentioned the offensive line and team, but what does a game like this do for you moving forward?
I mean, we still not playing our best football. Shooting ourselves in the foot, a lot of penalties offensively. We got to start faster than that. But I mean, you know, a win is a win. We found a way to get some rhythm, get some momentum going. And you know, defense did what they had to do, gave us some life, and you know, we fed off of it.
How did you audible into your touchdown run? Did you kind of know it as soon as you heard the call, or did you?
I mean, we worked that during the week, so I mean, if he calls it, I know he sees something that he likes. So when he called it, you know, I just stayed true to the read. Teron and those guys on the front side did what they had to do, backside, got their blocks in. You know, it was wide open for me. All I had to do was run.
Now, there was a play in the first half where you kind of went out of bounds. It looked like you had room to run. What happened on that play? Did you see it?
I just thought the guy was on me.
Yeah.
He just ran that bounce.
Is there something with you that you felt like in recent weeks that, you know, that thing you're so good at making the first guy miss and you know, attacking those guys? Is that anything that you've been trying to get back maybe since the injury?
Yeah.
In which way? In your own physicality to have that burst, or in the way defenses are playing?
Just to get that burst back, just to get it back going. You know, so like I said last week, I mean, I think it's just a race every week to be as close to 100% as you can. So that's what I've been trying to do.
So was that play in the third quarter where you did that, where you cut inside and made the guy miss? Did you even feel like, oh, this feels?
Yeah, it felt good. It felt good. I think that was one of those plays that I'm used to having that I just haven't had, you know, these past couple of weeks. I think just a little bit more, a little bit healthier, feeling better. So.
I'm sorry if you've already been asked this. We slipped in late, but not having a touchdown since week 3, like, was that something that weighed on you at all throughout the process?
We winning still, so you know it is what it is. I mean, I would like to score, but you know the wins are coming. You know, I'm not really a selfish player. It is what it is. As long as we're having success as a team, I'm good.
Probably an example of that with the touchdown that Jared Cook had. I mean, you went down and had a big block on the sideline to kind of let him get in the end zone.
Yeah.
If you are feeling like you're in a funk ever, like making plays to just be able to help the team however you can, like is that something that you try to focus on too?
I mean, as a football player, I mean, you one of 11 guys on the field. So, I mean, every play you have a job to do, you know. So even if I'm not scoring or touching the ball, I mean, I have a job to do, whether it's to, you know, block somebody, whether it's to hold a flat defender for, you know, a route up over me, whether it's to be a play fake. I mean, I have a job to do. So as long as I'm executing my assignment, I'm fine.
What's it like to play with a guy like Michael Thomas, who broke the record?
I mean, it's the same thing with when you guys ask about Drew Brees. I mean, Mike is Mike. You know, it's not anything out of the ordinary for him. He works hard. He wants the ball. He demands the ball. And, you know, when he gets the ball in his hands, he makes plays. So he deserves it.
Can you describe what you saw on that touchdown? It looked like they kind of blocked it up perfectly.
Yeah.
Really
It was great. It was great blocking, you know. So, I mean, like I said, all I had to do was run.
Alvin, do you feel like you all are getting back into a groove offensively overall as a team last few weeks?
Yeah, I mean, this game was sloppy. A lot of penalties, like I said, shot ourselves in the foot. You know, we gotta focus attention to detail and you know, clean up some of the messes we're creating on our own, because I mean, I feel like when we're clean, when we play clean, nobody can stop us. We're stopping ourselves with 1st and 20s and things like that. So.
Jared Cook says that he thinks about like how high this offense can go every day, just the potential of it when you guys are all clicking. Do you think about that at all? Just
Yeah.
I've shown it in some games, but I mean, it really seems like when you and Mike and Drew and Jared are clicking on all cylinders, it's kind of like you said, maybe unstoppable.
I mean, like I said, we just got to limit the mistakes, the errors, and I think, you know, we go as far as we want to go.
Thank you.
Well, Mike, I forgot my grill at home, so I apologize to everyone for that. But hopefully we'll be hearing from Michael Thomas and Drew Brees shortly at the podium. Alvin Kamara was a bit of a surprise, but a good surprise, of course, hearing from Kamara. And as we heard, Mike, he's not a selfish player. That's very evident. But as long as he goes out there and does his job, he's happy with whatever happens, and hopefully, it results in a Saints win. 11
carries, 80 yards, 2 touchdowns, 6 catches, 30 yards, and again, just does whatever is necessary. You felt like he was getting a little bit back into his rhythm. A couple other things we now know. Cincinnati is on the clock. The Cincinnati Bengals lost to Miami today in overtime, 38-35, so they will have the top pick. And here is Mike Thomas, who is now at the lectern. Let's listen.
What does this record mean to you?
To be honest, it doesn't really mean nothing. We got the victory. We're trying to play and go to a championship right now, and at the end of the season, we'll look up and see all the things that we accomplished. But right now, we're focused on one common goal, and that's the championship.
Mike, Sean said that you got a lot of your catches tonight in the slot. They were doubling you on third down. How do you all go about that, adjusting to get you open?
Just figuring it out, through the course of the game, taking what they're giving you and learning how to execute and split doubles and create separation. And just preparation throughout the week, talking to Drew, asking what he likes, what he sees, and just trying to be absolutely where he wants me at the right time.
Mike, did you grow up watching Marvin Harrison?
Yeah.
And is there a respect factor there for what he did in his career?
Oh, yeah, most definitely. Tremendous player, Hall of Fame player. I actually know his son, who's actually going to Ohio State, who has a bright future as well. A guy that I got to know this offseason who's going to be real special, and I'm excited for him to go to Ohio State. And Marvin is just, it's not many bad things you can say for him. He's a real professional, way he went about his business. And just to be in this position right now, it's a blessing. I don't take it for granted, but the fact that we still have more goals as a team, as far as not the individual stuff that comes along with it, I would be selfish to be like, oh, I just caught all these passes and did all this. Ultimately, I was catching passes to win the game, to help my team, to be in the position we're in now. So I just want to keep catching passes and end up where we want to be.
His relationship with Peyton Manning, I'm sure something as far as you and Brees, maybe that's a relationship that you guys kind of want to emulate in a way. Do you look at it in that way at all, your relationship?
We're just so locked in and focused on playing that perfect game and winning as many games as we can and staying in the moment. So it's just it's hard. I broke the record. I caught a lot of passes, but it's just what I was doing that for was for my team. So I wasn't really looking at the stat sheet, but I was making sure I caught the passes and add value to my team. So that's ultimately what I'm here to do, and I feel like as long as I continue to do that, I'll get more passes and I'll break more records.
What does it say about the offense that you didn't just catch passes from Drew, you caught some from Teddy and even Taysom too?
Yeah, just accountability in our preparation and our coaching. We have tremendous coaches that allow us to play fast on Sundays, that put us in position to make big plays, to move the chains. And credit to those guys. Credit to all my teammates, honestly, for the record. That's really, it was a contributed effort. They all played a part in. I couldn't catch the pass if Ryan, Teron, Larry, Pete, Easton, all the guys. Yeah, Ryan. I said Ryan, but you can't forget about him. He's been playing tremendous too. But just those guys, my teammates, I love them. They honestly put me in position to make those plays. So they gave the quarterback enough time. Credit to picking up protections, to the running backs, to the receivers, clearing out space, to Teddy Bridgewater, to Taysom. I could go down the whole list and just thank all my teammates because honestly, they gave to the defense. They allowed us to give us the ball back and have possessions to make those catches. So it's all compliment football. Like I said, I haven't really took it all in yet. I'm just happy for the victory and to be moving in the right direction, playing for a 1 and 2 seed.
Was the ball used to catch the touchdown pass the same ball that was used?
I haven't even broken down yet.
When you were, it seemed like you were going and like after that touchdown pass, you were talking to a lot of your teammates. Were they like congratulating you, or were you going and thanking them? It seemed like you went to acknowledge a lot of different people.
Oh yeah, I always do that. You guys probably just caught it there because of what just happened, but I always like to, encourage my teammates, let them know, just thank them, and make sure make sure we're all locked in and we're staying focused and doing the things we're supposed to do and encouraging them. Just things team players do.
Mike, did you know that was a record catch when you caught it? I mean, did you know that was?
Man, record, it's broken and it's going to be extended next week. That's all I'll say. Like, we have a big game coming next week. I don't really want to talk too much about the individual stuff, man. I'm blessed to be in this position, to be able to have an opportunity to break that record, to be with the names of those guys, and probably we can have this interview at the end of the season and, after we look at all the individual stuff. But right now I'm playing for my team.
Mike, you signed a big contract though before the season. A lot of guys maybe fall into some places there. What drives you to continue on?
First and foremost, I don't pay attention to the other guys and what they're doing and all the stuff they have going on. I just try to stay in my lane, maximize my potential and always try to get better, find ways to enhance my weaknesses and improve the things that I'm really good at so that no one can take those away from me. And keep my blinders on and win games. That's the best feeling at the end of the day, wins. The win column, adding up the win column. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you.
That was wide receiver for the Saints, Michael Thomas. We'll be hearing from Drew Brees here shortly at the podium. Of course, Michael Thomas broke 2 records today for the New Orleans Saints in their win over the Tennessee Titans. Someone asked a question today, Mike, and it's something I haven't really thought of, but this season, Mike has caught passes from Teddy, Taysom, and Drew, which is, kind of rare for a receiver to catch passes from all 3 quarterbacks in a quarterback room on a team.
They all have a hand,
right?
In his record, and this is a very humble football team. From Mike Thomas all the way through to Demario Davis, who was just a train wreck today. I mean, he had 11 tackles, 1 sack. It's the 3rd consecutive year. Demario Davis has had 100+ tackles. He's done it 6 out of his 8 years. He has been, in my estimation, one of the toughest and best players on this defense from a tackling standpoint and really making the plays when they have to. And it's just done such a good job. And again, it's now 41 straight games that this defense has not allowed an individual rusher to get to 100 yards.
Right.
The most 68, the most today for the Titans. So, the defense just kind of does what they do. And here we are again. We always talk about the Superdome and the mystique and then a tough place to play. The Saints are 6-1 on the road. 6-1 on the road, a win next week, and they'll be 7-1 on the road.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, the one loss was the Rams game with Drew hurts his hand,
right,
and TD called back. Who knows? They are a very good football team to go on the road in any conference and win 6 games at this point, 6-1.
Well, you talked about the Saints defense, and they stepped up big when Teddy Bridgewater was at quarterback. But can you talk about the growth and development of C.J. Gardner-Johnson? Because you touched on it a little bit earlier this year. He's a rookie. He came in, to a secondary who now is dealing with a lot of injuries. But he's done his job fairly well, and he's grown a lot over this season.
You mentioned the word earlier, that's swagger.
Yeah.
And I think it's what we saw from Marshawn Lattimore when he came right away. Just he did boom, swagger. And I think C.J. Gardner-Johnson just kind of worked his way into it. I think he just needed some confidence.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, probably the best thing that happened to him was the ability to get on the field quickly and play. And now he is just making plays. You can just kind of see it in his kind of attitude on the field. You don't want the injuries, but he has benefited from that. And you look at the Saints offensive line. You don't want any of those injuries, but a Will Clapp and some of these other guys that you're going to need if you have, Carolina, 2 playoff games. You got 4 more games. You're going to need everybody. And so the experience that these guys are getting on defense and the offensive line is so crucial as you get deep into the playoffs.
Man, Shai Tuttle seems like he's going to go into Saints fans Hall of Fame.
And Granderson
with the stiff arm on Matt Ryan, and then of course Carl Granderson is stepping up in big ways for the team. Mario Edwards Jr., Malcolm Brown has been great. Someone who the Saints picked up in free agency this year. That defensive line has really got a lot of depth. I think we were talking about it earlier. More depth than they've had probably in the past few years.
Right, certainly on the interior where they've been, they lost Marcus, Cam, but you're right. It's a next man up mentality, and they've been able to really to pull it off. They're deep where they've been hurt. They're deep, and so it hasn't hurt them too bad. And man, this defense certainly did it today when they had to. I mean, 5 straight punts by Tennessee at a time in the game when they were up, and then you could just feel that momentum shift away. It was the defense that started that momentum shift. It might have been the Jared Cook that really got it, 14-10, but it was the defense that started that momentum shift.
Well, while we wait for quarterback Drew Brees, we're going to go ahead and let you watch some highlights from today's game against the Titans.
From the 39, here's Brees on first down, wide open, it's Jared Cook, and he breaks free. Inside the 25, down the sideline, and the former Titan takes it all the way. The handoff to Alvin Kamara, he's inside the 20, and Kamara is in for a Saints touchdown, 40 yards from the 1. It's Kamara again, no doubt about it this time. It's from the Tennessee 16-yard line. As Brees throws end zone, and the catch is made by Jared Cook for his second touchdown today. Hill on first down. Hill throws, and that will tie the all-time record on the pass from Taysom Hill. Brees looking his way, and there it is, a new NFL record. Second and goal. Brees to the end zone for a touchdown to Michael Thomas.
Welcome back into the New Orleans Saints Postgame Show presented by Verizon. That was some highlights from today's game over the Tennessee Titans as your New Orleans Saints defeat them 38-28. We should be hearing from quarterback Drew Brees if he hasn't already gotten on the plane yet. We do not know, but we will get you over.
This is long even for Drew.
Yeah, we'll get you over to the podium as soon as we can. Let's talk about Drew Brees today. 27 of 38 completions for 279 yards and 3 touchdowns. As we've heard a lot from this team, you want to be playing your best football going into playoffs. And do you? I don't want to have a hot take, but with the injury from Teddy Bridgewater, or with Drew Brees having Teddy Bridgewater come in the middle of the season, I don't want to say you have a fresher Drew Brees, but maybe you don't have as much wear and tear on Drew Brees as you would have if he would have played those few weeks that he was out.
Yeah, I think it's 5 games that fresher legs. I don't think the thumbs bother him anymore. Right. I think that you just look at, as JD said, just look at where this offense is what they're doing.
Yeah.
They weren't a few weeks ago they were averaging 21. Yeah. Now in the last 5 games they're up back in the 30s where we're most accustomed to seeing this team. And I think certainly what he does most are probably something that we never talk about, those are his incompletions. Mm-hmm. He threw some incompletions today just to get rid of it. He got sacked, but he just threw some passes to get rid of it and live another day.
Yeah.
Took a sack, got hit on the 1, looked very close to being a safety, but he took that sack, but he didn't, throw a pick. Which would easily have been a pick 6. So even his incompletions are just smart. He is a leader. He's doing what his body allows him to do.
Yeah.
The 61-yarder today was probably a 20-yard catch and a 41-yard run. And so the offense, the passes that he has thrown to Michael Thomas in the last few weeks, to me, have been the best passes that I've seen of Drew Brees. The deep route, sideline route, Mike, one-handed, that week, the week before in San Francisco, just laid it perfectly. So we're not seeing as many of the back shoulders that we would have seen during the Marcus Colston, Jimmy Graham days, but just still on point, leading this team, doing what there was this is a there was a time in this game, I can't remember what the reception was, but Drew changed the play 3 times.
Yeah.
At the line. The third time is when he gets real low behind the offensive line, and he changed it the third time. And you could see Tennessee, they didn't know what was going on.
Right.
And it was a pass complete across the middle. Might have been to Jared, I don't remember to Mike Thomas, but it was just one of those plays that he took the play clock right down to 0 to do it. But it was that third play change that Tennessee, you could see the Titans were just, it totally threw them off guard. And it's that kind of stuff that doesn't show up here. It was a completion for a first down, but it's because he was able to recognize defensively what was there and have enough time in his head to change that play a third time.
Well, I think it goes into what you were talking about earlier in the trust factor, because you needed some time to build trust with Jared Cook. Now you look at the receivers of today's game. In today's game, you only have 2 guys that haven't been with Drew Brees for more than 2 seasons. So it's that trust factor that you see building on this team that continues to develop. But Mike, something we talked about earlier, penalties, but another area I think the Saints are going to look at to correct is third down efficiency. 4 of 12 today. The Tennessee Titans were 5 of 13, but the third down efficiency is something that the Saints have really wanted to work on, and today it just wasn't their best.
Wasn't their best. And part of the problem, when this team's at its best offensively, and it might be a 4 or 5 yard runoff with Murray or Alvin, and then you're in a 2nd and 6, and then you're 3rd and 3. They had 3rd and 18. 3rd and 13. Yeah. They had some long third down situations, and that's not where this team is going to be at its best. It's the 3rd and short. And when you're 3rd and long, like this team was early today because of 9 first half penalties, by the way, only 2 penalties in the second half, they finished with 11. When you get into those kind of situations, that's where this team is not at its strength. It's third. This offense is built around, passes being used as runs, and it looks like Drew is coming to the lectern, so let's listen in.
Go ahead.
Drew, when Mike breaks records like that, do you get a sense of what it means to him, or is he as laid back as he is?
Well, I wouldn't say laid back as Mike T. I think he's a fierce competitor, and I think there's a great sense of urgency with everything that Mike does, so we see that on the practice field every day, see it in the locker room. He's also a fun-loving guy, he loves his teammates. He loves the locker room, he'll be the first one to tell you, he said it after the game. He said, I love this team. I love playing for this team. I love battling for this team. And I think he just has an engine, and he's got a fire that I think is pretty rare, I think we all pride ourselves on being competitors and, preparing the best we can to go out and perform on Sundays, but he's pretty rare. He's very rare, the way that he goes about his business each and every week. Everything you see on Sunday is what we see literally every rep in practice. There's not a single rep that's I'm just going to take it easy this time kind of a thing. He's full go all the time, preparing himself for that championship rep, because I think in his mind, that's how he's getting ready to play on Sunday, and that's how he's getting ready for bigger and bigger games down the road. He's always putting himself in that position.
Drew, that first touchdown to Jared, how much did you guys kind of need that kind of jump start?
Yeah, I thought that was really important. Obviously they jumped out, with 2 consecutive touchdown drives, and we kept shooting ourselves in the foot offensively with our first maybe 4 or 5 possessions. It felt like it was penalties, it was just miscues and not very good execution. And so, yeah, that was big, because I think that obviously gave us a lot of momentum going in at half, and then we came out with the ball, the first possession in the second half, and took the lead right there, and then never looked back.
Drew, what did you see there? It looked like you checked into that play.
Yeah, we checked into it. Felt like we had an opportunity to throw a seam ball to Jared, and he made a great catch, great run, great block by AK outside on the corner that kind of sprung him down the sideline.
So I think Sean said you checked into the Kamara touchdown run as well.
Yes.
So you were seeing
we're checking passes, we're checking runs. scoring touchdowns. That's good stuff.
You mentioned how Mike was saying he loves his team. When did he say that, in an interview, or did he address the locker room?
Yeah, he obviously got a game ball. Turns out you get game balls when you catch 144 passes in a season. 140, yeah, that's right. What was the record? The previous record was 143. Okay. Yeah, so he got a game ball, and he got a chance to tell the team, just how much he loved being a part of it, which it's always great to hear guys say that.
Did you know that's a record? You broke the record?
I didn't. I mean, listen, I knew I'd thrown a lot of balls to him, and I knew we needed 11. So I had a feeling he was close to it or eclipsing it on one of those.
Can you put into perspective just how hard that is to do, to catch that many balls in the season when defenses are focusing?
Yeah. I mean, listen, break it down. It's almost 10 catches a game, right? Through 15 games here, almost 10 catches a game. It's remarkable, especially with as much as, teams target him and have a plan for him. But, again, testament to his ability to get open, right, and his desire and his work ethic.
It was nice to see Alvin do like an Alvin thing and
oh, yeah.
bust the 40-yarder.
Absolutely. That run and then tough goal line run. Yeah, he was great all day.
He's had a lot of yards this year, but when he hasn't had a touchdown since week 3, do you feel like that weighs on him at all?
I mean, I'm sure. Listen, in a way, it weighs on all of us. It's like because he's such a big part of this offense and what we do, and he's highly productive. And typically with that comes touchdowns. That's a product of the productivity, right? But for one reason or another, he just hadn't gotten in the end zone for a while. But I hope we broke that seal, and obviously he got in twice today, and hopefully there's a lot more where that came from.
That block by him?
That was a great block, yeah.
Do you have I guess if you want to say he was in a funk just from not having touchdowns, to find different ways to help your team, is that something that...
Well, see, that's the thing, he's a team player, and so, I mean, for a guy like me, hey, quarterbacks are used to throwing touchdown passes, but, if I get to hand it off, 5 or 6 times a game and watch our running backs go in the end zone, I'll be the happiest guy out there too. I don't care if I throw it or not, and so it's, man, what's my job to put everybody in the best position to succeed, right? And then Alvin doing whatever he can to put the offense in the best position to succeed, getting some of those hard yards, and maybe it doesn't result in him getting the touchdown, but, Mike Thomas got it, or, Latavius Murray got it, or Jared got it, and it was because of his block that Jared got it, right? And so, man, that's good football.
What did you see on the second touchdown to Cook? What was the pre-touchdown?
Yeah. I trust him. So tried to throw it where he could get it, and the other guy couldn't.
Do you remember maybe the earliest example of Mike Thomas's intensity in practice? You mentioned it a minute ago.
Yeah.
And maybe getting really mad.
Yeah. No, listen, he you'll definitely get a helmet slam, once every week or two, right? Whether it's, he didn't run a route just like he wanted to, or maybe, the ball wasn't where it was supposed to be, or he, rarely does he get a hand on it and not bring it in. But again, he's got high expectations, right, for himself and for everyone around him, and it makes us all better.
Can I get one more?
Real quick. Yeah.
C.J. Gardner-Johnson had a big play.
Yeah, huge.
Is he as confident?
Oh, yeah.
You go against him?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. He's got a ton of swagger. I love that about him. I think that's what makes him a great player, and you love having him on your team for that reason. I think he not only does that lead to plays like that, but I think it gets everybody kind of hyped around him too. It's one of those guys that has a way of just getting guys excited. All right, thanks.
All right, Mike, in the words of Drew Brees, man, that's good football. Any final thoughts?
Yeah, that was good football. Just a couple of things. I saw a tweet from Will Lutz a second ago talking about Taysom Hill. It's at T Hill 4, and it says, "Please don't let the coaches see you kick field goals." And I was like, wow.
He can do it all.
He
man.
can do it all. And finally, a win next week over Carolina. The Saints will be 13-3, same as they were in 2009, and could very likely be that top seed just as they were in 2009. So that is the goal. We do everything as we did in 2009. 13-3, be the top seed, win 3 games, Super Bowl in Miami.
I like
Easy to do on
that.
paper.
Yeah, I like the sound of that. All right, that game will be the following Sunday, December 29th at noon on the road against the Carolina Panthers. That game will be available on Fox, but of course we'll have all of your updates along the week, including injury reports, interviews, and much, much more on NewOrleansSaints.com and the Saints app. But Mike, we have a holiday on Wednesday, so happy holidays to you
as
and
well.
your family, and to all of you watching at home. We hope you enjoyed the New Orleans Saints postgame show presented by Verizon. Finally, the New Orleans Saints defeated the Tennessee Titans today 38-28 on the road. That'll do it for today's post-game show. Have a good day and happy holidays, everyone.